Hello, and thank you for watching this March 30th weather update, brought to you by Agrible, the makers of Morning Farm Report. My name is Eric Snodgrass, and I am a senior atmospheric scientist and co-founder of Agrible. In the last week's weather update, I highlighted the risk for severe weather midweek, so let's take a look at the aftermath. The Storm Prediction Center performed exceptionally well with this event by alerting the public more than 3 days in advance of the threat for severe weather. On March 24th, the SPC upgraded the risk across Oklahoma and Arkansas to be an enhanced risk, and as you can see, the risk area they highlighted contains nearly all of the severe weather reports. In total, there were 178 reports of large hail, 52 reports of severe winds, and 8 reports of tornadoes. Amazingly, Moore, Oklahoma took another direct hit last week as the 5th tornado since 1999 passed through this community. In total, there was 1 fatality and numerous destroyed structures, including several mobile homes. It is important to note that in the United States, nearly 45% of all fatalities from tornadoes are in mobile homes. It is also interesting to look at the statistics for Oklahoma City, as this area has been hit nearly 160 times since the late 1880s. Putting this outbreak of severe weather into the context of the 2015 severe weather season, we can see in the bottom figure that we are far below normal in terms of tornadoes, as just 36 reports have happened so far this year, while 215 reports is average. We will be watching the Midwest and Great Plains very closely over the coming weeks, as severe weather activity ramps up and spring arrives. Speaking of spring, many across the United States are wondering if it will ever happen. March's temperature anomalies have put a section of the United States from Texas to the northeast U.S. back into winter, while the western U.S. has been breaking all-time records for heat. The good news is that much of the Midwest and parts of the East Coast will see the arrival of warmer weather this week. Here's an animation of the surface temperatures through the first week of April. Notice the buildup of warmth across the Corn Belt to start this week. There will be one small setback towards the end of the week as another cold front pushes through the Midwest around Thursday, but the temperatures will recover, and we'll have more on this particular system in just a few minutes. Looking out to the 8 to 14-day forecast for temperature, we see a high probability of warmth across the central U.S., with a higher than normal likelihood of cooler air remaining out east. If this forecast verifies, the cooler than normal temperatures in the Pacific Northwest will be one of the first times in months that this region has seen below average temperatures. Turning our attention to recent precipitation, here's the percent of normal rainfall across the United States over the last 30 days. We see a very similar storyline as in our last few weather updates, where the mid and lower Mississippi and Ohio River valleys have been quite wet. Many of the tributaries of these large rivers are flooded and have spilled over into the surrounding farmland. In contrast, the upper Midwest and Great Plains have been quite dry, and the drought in California and Nevada has seen no relief. We'll have more on these regions in just a few moments. Thankfully, some precipitation did push through parts of the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin over the last 7 days, although much of this fell as snow. Also, the Pacific Northwest has received more rain, but interior parts of Washington, Oregon, and southern Idaho missed out on this event, which are 3 regions that are in desperate need of more precipitation. We can see the importance of this rain when looking at the U.S. Drought Monitor. Focusing first on the Corn Belt, Illinois, Iowa, and Indiana have entered spring with adequate soil moisture, but the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin have been quite dry. This is one region we need to watch closely this growing season as the drought is intensifying there. We can also see the ongoing drought in northern Texas and western Oklahoma, and the large region of exceptional drought in California and Nevada. Over the next 8 days, there are 2 systems that will bring precipitation to the Midwest and Southeast. Starting on Wednesday, a low-pressure system will develop along the U.S.-Canadian border and move east, dragging a cold front through the central states. Then, another low-pressure system is forecast to form at the end of the week in the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma and push east, bringing another round of precipitation to the already drenched mid-Mississippi and Ohio River valleys. We can also see that the Pacific Northwest receives another round of strong onshore flow, bringing in needed rain and snow to coastal Washington, Oregon, and northern California. So let's take a closer look at the cold front that is coming through later this week. By Wednesday night, widespread showers stretch from Nebraska through Wisconsin and push southeast into Illinois by Thursday. On Friday morning, forecast models are suggesting another low-pressure system to develop in Oklahoma, bringing more rain and the possibility of some snow into parts of the Midwest. We'll need to watch these 2 systems closely, though, as the week progresses to better assess the timing, precipitation amounts, and precipitation type as March ends and April begins. Looking at the severe weather threat this week, Monday and Tuesday are highlighted with the possibility of strong storms in the south, but at this point no major severe weather events are forecast this week. We will watch for the potential for strong storms, though, on Thursday across Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, but at this point it's too early to adequately assess the threat from these storms. Looking a little bit longer term, here are NOAA's 1-month outlooks. On the left are the probabilities of being above or below normal for air temperature, and on the right are the same for precipitation. While the west remains warm and dry, the southern states are forecast to be wetter and cooler than normal. Again, we need to keep an eye on the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, as the past few months have been quite dry in this area, and the forecast is for below normal precipitation as well. Looking a bit longer term, there will be a lot of talk this growing season about the developing El Nino in the Equatorial Pacific Ocean and its relationship with corn and soybean yields in the United States. Before we examine this, let's take a quick look at the current state of the Pacific Ocean. In the top panel, we can see that stretching from the west coast of South America across the Pacific, there's a large region of warmer than normal sea surface temperatures. These anomalies represent the recent revival of El Nino conditions. What is interesting is that at the same time, the North Pacific sea surface temperatures have shifted over in the last 6 months to what is known as the positive phase of the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. This occurs when warm sea surface temperatures align along the west coast of North America and cooler sea surface temperatures stretch from China through the central North Pacific. While these anomalies will produce downstream effects across the United States, the relationships are not as clear nor as predictable as we would like. The bottom plot shows the forecast from numerous weather models for the developing El Nino. What is clear is that there is agreement among the models that El Nino conditions will persist through summer and early fall, although there's considerable spread in the intensity of the event. Looking historically, though, summer El Nino events have occurred about a dozen times since the 1950s. In that time, the United States has had 6 years of above normal corn yields and 6 years of below normal corn yields. The worst year of these selected years was probably 1991, when yields were down about 10% across the United States. In contrast, 1965, 69, 72, 82, 87, and 2009 all had yields that were between 100 and 110% of average. My point is that using El Nino as a single predictor for the outcome of the 2015 crop can lead to a bad prediction. As such, we will continue to monitor these events and their potential impacts across the United States and report back to you. As we look forward to planting in the Corn Belt, here are our observations. First, field work in this region might be compromised by flooded areas and saturated soils. Second, there are 3 areas of drought that need to be monitored closely as planting begins. But thankfully, the start to the severe weather season has been very slow. However, remember that April through June are the most active months for severe thunderstorms, so pay close attention to our weather updates to stay alert of severe weather threats in this area. Lastly, the major deficit in snowpack out west will have a large impact on irrigation efforts this growing season. For those of you watching in the western United States, here's another update of the snowpack in the mountains as represented by the percent of normal. Notice how west of the Continental Divide, many locations are less than 30% of average. This, compounded with the ongoing drought, will put a large stress on irrigation, so prepare to see an impact on the ag commodities grown in the western states. As always, we at Agrible will bring you the latest and best weather forecast information through our morning farm report, so that you can efficiently plan your operations. We thank you for your attention and hope you look forward to our next weather update. Thank you.